One of my most popular video series on this channel is Army Men vs LEGO, a classic setup between cheap toy soldiers and expensive Danish plastic. In this video, I'll be covering the lore and story elements behind each video. Additionally, I'll also explain what would have happened in the cancelled 4th video, that parts I had managed to film before I scrapped the project. The story of Army Men vs LEGO is covered across 5 videos, starting with the original and ending with Army Men vs Space Marines 2. So not all the videos are focused purely on LEGO, but encompass other toys and figures as well that can get involved in the conflict. The series is set inside a house, where the various toys and objects live their own lives in their own little worlds. The main 2 factions of note are the various plastic Army Men armies and the LEGO people, though there are many others that occupy this world, as seen with the models from Warhammer 40k. The war starts in the first video, where a group of Green Army Men set up an outpost on the kitchen bench and encounter some LEGO brick men. The Army Men, despite their warmongering paranoia, make a feeble attempt to form a connection with the newcomers, but when faced with an optimistic and positive attitude, the toys forged for war respond in the only way they know how, with excessive violence. They're collectivists! Start shooting them! Despite what some viewers may think, the LEGO people aren't actually communist, but the Army Men, full of patriotism and backed by the military-industrial complex, need little justification to start another war. In this setting, the Army Men are numerous and treat the lives of their men as cheaply as the plastic they are made of. The 3 main colours are tan, green and grey, who have been fighting each other non-stop, forging and breaking alliances to try and gain the upper hand. The Brickmen are a LEGO subgroup, and are the essence of LEGO boiled down into its most basic creative form, of bricks being used to make anything. They are peaceful and seek only to build and create, so are opposed to violence. This doesn't stop the Army Men, however, so the Brickmen are forced to adapt and make weapons to defend themselves and escape. It is here that the portals are established, as a convenient way for the LEGO people to travel quickly, which will lead to a key plot device in the following films. The LEGO portals are gateways that teleport beings from one location to another. The gap between them varies, with gateways built leading to different houses or entirely different realms. So far, only the LEGO people know how to build these devices, that may or may not be magical, who knows. Some of these realms, as we later see, are micro-worlds, a prime example of a micro-world being the home of the Bionicle monsters. The LEGO people are well versed in travelling these places, and are familiar with its inhabitants. Because of this, the LEGO people are very keen to protect the technology of the portals from the Army Men, who they know will use the portals to wage war on any place they find. This is what leads to the events of the second Army Men vs LEGO film. The Army Men, encouraged by their first victory, jump on the weaker and more pacifist-minded LEGO. Their drive to wipe out the LEGO people has been increased after their encounter with the other dominant force in the household, the Warhammer 40k miniatures. In the same way the Army Men outclassed the LEGO with their hunger for battle and experience of warfare, the Space Marines and the various Xenos factions of 40k were the next big fish in the pond, but 100 times worse. When the Army Men first contacted them, it opened a floodgate of violence that shocked the normally militaristic toy soldiers. The Space Marines, hostile to all forms of mutation and aliens, saw the Army Men as similar to their foes, the Orcs. They had green skin, came in large numbers, and wielded primitive weapons by their standards. The Army Men had the misfortune of countering the Black Templars first, the most zealot of the Space Marine chapters, who sought nothing less but their extermination. Fortunately for the Army Men, the Warhammer minis were stuck in their own territory for now, and slow to travel, for the moment, so that toy soldiers could withdraw troops from the hostile zones and refocus on securing land that they could control. Thus, they turned to eliminating the LEGO. Keen to get the campaign of LEGO extermination over quickly, the various Army Men colours united against a common enemy and reorganised into one large army. This was the United Army. The United Army was commanded by a coalition of the top 3 generals of each colour, with General Green acting as the dominant voice. The army mostly stuck with its traditional formations, with units organised by the same colour, though towards the end of the campaign, casualties, combined with a familiarity between the armies, saw increased number of mixed units. One of these mixed units of note were the Stormtroopers, an elite company assembled by General Grey, who was charged with the United Army's intelligence and special operations. He had soldiers from each army selected based on their skill and experience, but also, more importantly, the ability to work with confidential information. Tan and green members were designated by their silver helmets, while the grey ones remained the same, showing there was still an in-group bias amongst the ranks, with General Grey making the majority of its officers grey soldiers. So, at the start of Army Men vs LEGO 2, there had been a time skip. The United Army had effectively cleared out all of the major areas of LEGO territory, but for one last holdout in the bathroom. The LEGO had suffered greatly during the war, scoring little to no victories during this time. Their strategy was to stay on the move, rebuilding their settlements into mobile bases. As the Army Men grew in power and started to set up checkpoints and bases all around the house, a message was sent out to the last remaining LEGO pockets of resistance: gather in the bathroom for the final evacuation of the house. Up to this point, the exodus from the house had been done slowly, with various groups leaving through their own small portals, while others stayed to fight. Now, with no chance of winning, the remaining LEGO army decided to make a final stand in the bathroom. The emergence of the Warhammer miniatures only made the situation worse, as the LEGO's blocky appearance and significant deviation from anything resembling human made them even more of a target for extermination. In the house, there would be no peace, only war. LEGO vs Army Men 2 opens for the last of the mobile bases, making a breakthrough in the Army Men blockade, allowing them to link up with the remains of the LEGO army. It has the effect of putting the other Army Men on alert to the location of the LEGO army. The Army Men assemble their full force for the first time, with the intention of wiping out the LEGO people in one decisive battle. The major concern for the United Army is the LEGO War Machine, a massive structure that was rumoured to have been upgraded and brought back online. The war machine in question was the LEGO Titan, a massive walker that had been an asset of the LEGO people for a long time, a relic of the old LEGO mechs in the past. Unlike the newer sets, this machine was clunky and slow, but made up for it in firepower. Having been brought back online and converted the frame into a mobile base, the walker was now a mirror of the Titans from the Warhammer 40k universe. The towering machine was the headquarters of the LEGO army, with the main deck serving as the base of operations for the LEGO Professor, who directed the construction projects and worked on the portal. For its weapons, the Titan had two arm-mounted weapon systems, one with a mega cannon and the other with dual repeater cannons. In addition to this, a large bombard cannon was mounted above the head. The rest of the body had ports and positions for various secondary weapon mounts, with the fortress serving as an area for infantry to fire on their enemies with their own weapons. The army men knew of the machine and were wary of it, but did not fear it. General Grey had gathered enough intelligence on the machine to give the army men an idea of its capabilities in terms of firepower. The army men correctly guessed that the machine would present a large, slow target they could work around. So while wary of the big guns, they had confidence that massed firepower would be able to destroy the brick-built creation, like all the other LEGO bases they had smashed through before. As the army men plotted, the LEGO leadership met and came up with a plan. The Professor had managed to link up the portal to a realm containing some of their lost cousins, creatures from the LEGO Bionicle sub-theme. Their plan was to recruit the far more aggressive relatives to help boost their forces and buy the LEGO people some time to have the portal located and link up to a new, safe world. The Battle of the Bathroom saw the full force of both sides meet up for a final confrontation. The LEGO forces consist of under 50 infantry and supporting personnel. The head commander was LEGO Boss, who led the ground forces, a mix of brickmen and minifigures. The ground forces also had the support of two suited up LEGO men, one of them being Big Red. Both were equipped with heavier armour and weapons. The LEGO had no tanks, with their mobile base serving only as a barricade. Their firepower came from multiple artillery pieces, with cannons and rapid-firing autoguns. Finally, there was the LEGO Titan, which operated outside a thinly built barrier around the LEGO portal. The United Army came with most of their assembled forces, which consisted of hundreds of army men and dozens of tanks. These tanks ranged from speedy light tanks to main battle tanks, with the Greys producing one heavy tank, which was brought in to deal with the Titan. Supporting their forces were multiple batteries of artillery pieces, along with missiles kept in reserve. As the battle was being waged, the LEGO Diplomat team had entered the realm of the banished Bionicles. This place was where the sinister creatures of the theme gathered, hunting for scraps of food and nursing grudges against their well-off fellow LEGO themes. As the main theme ended in 2010, the Bionicle had been feeling left in the dust, their failed arrival in 2015 doing little to help. Needless to say, they did not get along with other LEGO people and did not care about their current plight. Though the LEGO men framed themselves as peace-loving and caring, they are not above manipulation and underhanded moves. Given the Bionicle creatures were at their best keeping to themselves, and at worst violently hostile, it was deemed an acceptable option to lure them out to fight the army men, regardless of the casualties it would inflict. In their moment of despair, the LEGO men were ready and willing to throw a bunch of monsters under the bus to save themselves. It was that move that helped save the LEGO people. Though the Bathrone battle resulted in a decisive army men victory, it resulted in heavy losses for both sides, with half of the army men force being wiped out by the Bionicle monsters. The LEGO men suffered similarly high casualties, but managed to escape with a good chunk of their troops and destroy the portal. Of the Bionicle, only one monster, Claws, survived the attack and was taken captive by the army men. His fate was later to be deactivated and dissected by the army men. The army men failed on their objective of capturing the portal intact and wiping out the LEGO men in their entirety, but they overall succeeded in removing the LEGO presence from the household. General Grey was able to salvage the portal failure by the fact that 2 LEGO men remained behind to guard the console, which had data on it of the realms that the LEGO people had fled to. Their plan was to hide it until the day came when they could find a way out of the house without the army men following them. Unfortunately for them and the army men, Astartes of the Crimson Fist chapter found them first and slaughtered them, leaving the bodies and scattered console parts as bait for the army men. To the horror of the United Army, the Imperium of Man's forces were now ready to engage in their own crusade, with the various other factions such as the Orcs spilling out of the hobby desk to wage war on everything in the house. The army men's victory in the bathroom soon became a distant memory, made irrelevant by this new war that had started. As 20th century weapons and technology came face to face with the forces of the 41st millennia, it quickly became clear this was not an even fight. Army Men vs Space Marines 2 is the next video in the series, which shows the downward spiral of the Army Men into oblivion as the 40k miniatures ascend. By the time the film starts, the Space Marines had effectively shattered the United Army, separating each of their colours back to their home base as they attacked the Army Men's outpost with lightning strikes. At the same time, Orcs and other Xenos races had been assaulting the undermanned bases, the Army Men unable to provide the manpower they once had after the Bathrone battle. The Green Army, having the largest standing force, decided to make a direct attack on the hobby desk to flush out the Imperium and gain some initiative in the war. Their radio transmission and communications, however, were easily compromised, and so the Space Marines of the Crimson Fist chapter set out a trap for the Army Men. The battle on the hobby desk was another decisive victory, but this time it was not for the Army Men. The Greens attacked with the remains of their main army, a force hundreds of men strong, with a tank platoon in support. Waiting for them was a demi-company of Crimson Fists, some 50 Marines strong, with the company Dreadnought and Librarian. There was also a squad of 1st Company veterans and Terminators. The Army Men stood little chance. Though they outnumbered the Space Marines, the Army Men were not at an advantage, as the Emperor's Astartes were used to fighting in these conditions, making full use of the terrain and their genetic superhuman abilities to cull the invaders. Almost all of the weapons the Green Army Men had were unable to penetrate the armour of the Space Marines, their rifles more like pea shooters against the layered ceramite. Any weapon that the Army Men brought to bear, the Marines had an answer to, and from the start the battle was significantly tipped in their favour. The Crimson Fist effectively wiped out the majority of the Green Army, killing the Green General and leaving only 2 squads alive. With the senior officers gone, command fell on the Green Major, who ordered an overall retreat into hiding. And that is where the Army Men vs LEGO series ends effectively, the Army Men retreating into hiding as cosmic karma comes around to play dividends on their past actions. With a lot of my films, I like to keep open endings, so this can be treated as a finale, but also leaves things open for any sequels. Army Men vs LEGO 3 was framed in that way, with the total Army Men victory, though not completely eliminating the other side. It is very rare that real wars end with one side totally wiped out. I had disliked making Army Men vs LEGO 2 and 3, so I swore there wasn't going to be another one. Army Men vs Space Marines was a chance for me to use the setting and have fun with my Warhammer 40k miniatures, which I enjoyed. As time passed, I got some LEGO sets, such as the classic castle, and that inspired me to do some films of it. So the idea came about for the final LEGO vs Army Men film. That would have been a mash of various themes and factions into one final showdown. Ultimately, the film wasn't finished. During the time, my room underwent some reorganisations. I got a new job and my time was significantly limited, combined with other ideas taking my interest.
I will lead.
In prioritising what I could work on with the limited time I had, I decided to do one long Army Men video with World at War, and so I started working on that instead. However, footage was filmed for Army Men vs LEGO 4, so I'll show it here now and explain the planned story I had. The film starts with a bleak picture of the present. The house is littered with burnt out husks of tanks and thousands of bodies, mostly all army men. In the span of 2 years, the Space Marines had waged a relentless crusade against the army men, while alien races ravaged and plundered the strongholds of the different colours. The United Army had managed to come back together with a new set of senior commanders. This time they found themselves in a position the LEGO people were at the bathroom battle. With the remains of their army now in strict hiding, the new plan was to rebuild the LEGO portal and escape. The Army Men's portal was a product of painstaking reverse engineering of the LEGO one. This process gave them an appreciation for their LEGO foes, and a desire to learn more from them. But in order for the portal to work, and to reach the safe zone that the LEGO people had fled to, they needed the control computer, which had previously been destroyed by the Crimson Fists. Absolutely nothing left of this thing. The control center is completely blasted. Fortunately, the deceased General Grey had left behind a strong intelligence network, which was able to locate the remains of the computer. It had been salvaged by a tribe of orcs, who had been collecting LEGO scrap. The army men sent a squad on a daring raid to steal the computer, without drawing the attention of the orcs. An opportunity arose when a Marine strike force attacked the orc tribe, allowing tan and green troops to snatch up the device and make a getaway, having only attracted the attention of one orc boy. Meanwhile, the LEGO Men refugees were enjoying their new life in the bedroom realm. This was a place full of LEGO themes that coexisted with other toys in the room. Among those was a bucket of green soldiers, who acted as the guardian force for the bedroom. Unlike the brutish ones from the previous house, these green army men welcomed the LEGO Men with open arms. And so the LEGO Men carved out a new life with the LEGO civilizations in the bedroom, trading and building up their own settlements alongside the city, castle, space and Star Wars themes. This would change, however, as the army men managed to reassemble and jury-rig the control device into their own portal. The repairs were successful, and so the United Army gathered once more in its full might to leave the old house, which had become overridden with the ultra-violent 40k models. The United Army passed through the portal, which had been rigged to explode when the last troops passed through, effectively making it a one-way trip. The United Army arrived in the bedroom, where the master portal was located. The bedroom is laid out in a series of islands that are joined by bridges, linking up desks, shelves and bench tops to each theme's territory. Assembling their forces, the army men's first act was to take out some innocent LEGO bystanders that happened to be in the area, to make sure no alarm was raised. Having sent ahead scouts, the United Army forms a careful plan, as their depleted forces were in a strange land, so they could not afford to be too hasty and bold. With a rough idea of the different groups and zones in the bedroom, the United Army developed a plan of attack. The bulk of their forces, led by the Greens, would take a direct push to the LEGO castle, where they were to break into the fortress and force the Royals to surrender. The goal here was not to exterminate, but instead subjugate the LEGO people by first usurping one of the main seats of power. While the main army made its way to the LEGO castle, a force led by the Greys would hold off the bridge linking to the Shelbs, where the Brickmen refugees had built a base, and where the LEGO Star Wars sets were. The hope was to cut off a significant military power from intervening, while also culling the last of the LEGO men that were familiar with their forces. With this plan, the army men made their way inland, first attacking the LEGO space area, making the spacemen flee on their ships. The army men then set up a base of operations there, where they could deploy choppers and jets. This is where they met the green toy soldiers, who were responding to the invaders. The United Army attempted to persuade them to join their forces, as they were the same kind of toy. The green toy soldiers refused, however, disgusted that the United Army was attacking peaceful factions and asking them to break their oaths of protection. The United Army, disappointed, attacked the green toy soldiers, who held them off as the LEGO started evacuating for the castle. The alarm was also raised to the rest of the room, with the Brickmen sending troops to the castle to help. With the delaying action complete, the green toy soldiers fell back, unable to hold off the heavy weapons and machines of the United Army. As they did, the woodlands were booby-trapped and ambushes were prepared to make life difficult for the invaders. Feeling desperate, with the alarm raised and a potential source of recruits denied to them, the United Army made haste towards the LEGO castle, encountering forestmen ambushes and landmines. Meanwhile, the Grey troops led forces to cut off the Shelf Bridge, successfully stopping any more Brickmen from aiding the castle. The Brickmen had to convince the LEGO Star Wars faction to join in on the fight. The rebels were keen, but the Empire was indifferent and unwilling to work alongside the rebels. The United Army manages to reach the castle, which had been fortified by the various factions. The army men soon realised they would not be dealing with a primitive army with stone walls and spears, but instead the guns of the green soldiers and lasers of the spacemen. The battle commences, with the army men slowly pushing back the outer forces, before a breach in the walls is made of their artillery. The army men sent into the breach get held off by knights with swords and spears, but they keep up the pressure. At the same time, the Brickmen are pushed back as the army men prepare to demolish the bridge. Their attack destroys an outpost of the Empire, which makes the matter personal. The Star Wars factions unite, and the Empire has an opening salvo from its Star Destroyer to blast away the Grey-led troops, who retreat as X-Wings and TIE Fighters take to the skies. Back at the castle, the United Army starts to make more breaches into the walls, but before they can press the advantage, TIE bombers do a bombing run over their back lines. AT-AT walkers show up, along with rebel troopers and stormtroopers, breaking the siege. Defeated, the United Army retreat, but find that their home base has been overrun with Brickmen and LEGO spacemen. Beaten and broken, the United Army surrenders. The film ends with the various factions deciding to banish the army men to the outside of the house, where they can wage their own wars in the gardens, sandboxes and flower beds, which will be their new home. The army men agree and sign a peace treaty, thus ending the army men LEGO war for good. It is here I left room for interpretation, that the other outdoor films I did before were just the wars that the army men later fought once they recovered. The battles between the Greens, Tans and Greys in the gardens, just depictions of what the army men got up to after their LEGO wars, thus making the series of films come full circle. So, that is an overall lore summary and story explanation for the Army Men vs LEGO series. I don't plan on making any more of them for this storyline, but other videos may follow in a similar setup. As I no longer have time for big projects, I am glad I could explain what would have been done with the series, and hopefully provided a conclusion to the videos. It had a good run, but was never something I had much passion in, so I'm not going back to this storyline again. There are other foes for the army men to face, and hopefully you can see more of that in the future.
I say hold!
Don't worry, sir. We will get you out of here.
No! We can't lose!
Hang in there, sir. We'll take the initiative. I've already shit myself on your behalf.